God, I hope I'm centered. I feel like this would be centered. Okay, I'm running out of time, so let's just start. Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Your Sexy. My name is Christina Flores, and I am a YouTuber and a digital creator. What? That's new. Yeah, so I'm here to talk about the process because it's going a little bit differently than I initially thought. And I want to share with you what's happening with me along this journey because that is what I'm aiming for, to share my truth. So first of all, the flow is going a little bit differently than I thought initially. I really wanted to do a weekly audio only podcast and then a monthly visual. I have thus far only been able to put out the monthly visual, and I still have a bunch of equipment sitting around me that I haven't had time to get to in order to do the audio version that I want. Now, these are not excuses. It's just simply the truth. I am overwhelmed. I have a couple new jobs this year. I am trying to find the workflow of creating content, and I also need sleep, and I also need joy, and I don't want to get overwhelmed to the point where I just stop altogether and I have nothing to give. So there's that. I have been shifting my ideas around sharing content. I think that at first I thought, okay, I'm just gonna completely detach from the outcome when I post something. I don't even care if anybody likes it. I don't care if anybody sees it. I'm just gonna put it out there and put it out there and put it out there. Now there is a fine line, there's a balance there, right? Because I could completely detach from outcome, but then I'm not really gathering data. So data, however you say that word. So I have been finding the balance between detaching myself from the opinions of others in terms of how it relates to my worth, but I do need to look at how people respond to what I put out because that is a marker for me to understand what people want to see more of, what people don't give a fuck about, and what people are excited about hearing. So there is a balance there. The other thing is I'm on social media probably more than I would like to be. I have in the past taken an entire year off of social media, which is one of the most glorious years of my life. But I do realize for the kind of work that I'm interested in doing, these platforms are the platform that I can use in order to reach more people. And accepting that has actually been able to widen my perspective on how I can use these platforms as a beautiful tool. And as long as I keep my mental health well around it, it really is a beautiful thing. I have notes here, so that's why you're seeing me look up here because I only had time to put talking points together. Eventually we'll get scripted and I will be more memorized, but I have talking points today. So let's talk about reality versus expectations. Like I already said, I wanted a monthly visual. I wanted a weekly audio, just podcast only. What's really happening is I'm having to kind of time block and I'm trying to eventually get to a point where I can do that, but I'm not there right now. And that's okay because I'm not going to be done with this journey for probably a really long time. So that's okay that I'm not exactly where I want to be yet and I have somewhere to go. Another expectation that I had was that I would get all my first picks for my podcast, for the people that I wanted to interview. And the reality is that some people didn't respond and some people aren't ready to talk in the vulnerable way that I am hoping for on my podcast. And that's all right because a lot of people said yes to the press and a lot of people are willing to talk vulnerably. And those people I'm super grateful to facilitate a conversation with. And I'm excited to be creative and have new ideas and to continue to find people and spaces where vulnerability is allowed and celebrated. Another expectation that I had is that everyone who loves me is going to love my podcast and they're going to support it to the maximum. They're going to love my YouTube. Oh my God, they're going to be so excited for me. And the reality is that everyone who loves you is busy. Okay? Everyone who loves you is busy, and they have their own life, and they have their own obligations and their own priorities. And a lot of times they haven't seen what you're doing, and they are excited for you, but they don't have time to actually go and look at it. So what I'm finding is that if the people that I love don't know that I'm starting a podcast or haven't been routed to my podcast or my YouTube page, I'm not doing my job well enough, and I need to make it even easier for everybody. The people who love me, the people who don't, the people who could potentially love me. I need to make it easier. So that's been a really great data point. And I'm gonna take this moment to flip the page here. Okay, wonderful. So I thought it would be cool to talk about my personal confidence and feelings of sexiness along this journey, because it's been a little bit up and down. I'm realizing that confidence, as much as I believe that when you believe that your efforts will lead to results, that it's a super powerful catalyst to create things and to move and to mobilize you. You're like, if I work hard for a year at this, I have to get better. I have to. There's no other option. If you do things more than once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, eventually you're going to get better at it, right? And that is true for me. But I also think that just doing in general is a way to build confidence. You have to have proof that you can do something. So even if you don't believe that you can do it, just go do it. That is my truth. I have to set a date. I have to attach my goals to other people so that I actually get things done. Because if I'm just showing up for me, 90% of the time, sadly, I won't get it done on time. But if I attach it to somebody else, I will show up for that person or that thing. I am also realizing along this journey that some of my oldest triggers are still with me in my pocket. Things I thought I resolved, things I thought didn't bother me anymore, sensitivities, old ways of coping. They're still here, and I'm still working on it. And I think the acceptance I'm having around that is that this is a lifelong process. Things don't just magically go away. If you are a codependent person, if you are a person who leans on substances to numb things, if you are a person who is sensitive to what other people think about you, those things are things you have to work on for the rest of your life. For the most part, unless you know somebody who has completely gotten away with all of the things that used to bother them, you're gonna have to keep working on it. You might be a hell of a lot better at it, but it's still gonna be there. So there's that. I feel a little bit unsexy right now in my own body. I am on a new birth control. I've been on it for almost 6 months, since August. It's called Nexplanon. It's in my arm, and I got it because I've had a couple of friends who've had really great experiences with it. And I'm not good at taking a pill, and I don't want to get pregnant. So I thought this will be great. I won't have to think about it. I'm getting more cystic acne. I'm also a picker, so I'm getting marks on my face that I'm not used to. I'm bleeding for weeks at a time, and my boobs hurt. And I am visiting a doctor on a regular basis to make sure that I'm okay. But these factors do not make me feel my sexiest, so I'm working through those feelings and real, actual physical realities and coping the best that I can, and trying to give this birth control a chance and not being resentful at my own body or at my partner, which is silly, but it's just a truth that's in my mind along this journey. When I do feel sexy is when I speak my truth. One of the coping mechanisms that I was wanting to talk about before is that I shut down and I go silent. That's my coping mechanism, because I feel Like if I hide my feelings, nobody can kind of get in there and touch me or affect me. And that actually does not make me feel good. I become extremely anxious, I become resentful, and I blow up. So the opposite of that is living in hope. Living in hope that things will get better, living in hope that things will go right, living in hope that people are on my side, that the world is on my side. And that is something that makes me feel really sexy when I can do that. Another thing that makes me feel sexy is when I can widen my perspective. When I find myself super stuck in Christina land and how Christina feels and how Christina would do things, I feel kind of rigid. I don't feel flowy. I don't feel like free. And I'm noticing that the more I can get a 360 perspective, the harder the problem, the wider the perspective needs to be. And I am realizing that the more I put myself in other people's shoes, the sexier, freer, and more flowing I feel in my life. I also feel extremely sexy when I show up on time and when I show up looking the part. So being late is a thing I've done my entire life. I'm always like a 5-minute late person. So I'm rushing and I'm driving crazy and I'm walking in the door saying sorry, and none of those things feel sexy. They don't feel professional. And a lot of the times in that same breath, I'm showing up looking a mess, and none of those things make me feel good. So one thing that I've really been trying to work on is being extra early instead of trying to fill every single slot of my day, which ends up making me late, and making sure that I dress the part. As superficial as someone might think it is, for me personally, when I do my hair and I do my makeup and I put on an outfit that makes me feel good for that particular role, I feel like a professional Christina Flores. I feel ready to walk through the door. I feel like other people take me more seriously for the most part. And it just helps me get pumped up. Discipline makes me feel sexy. I am noticing that when I do what I say I am going to do, I feel fucking like, yeah, girl. I feel so good about that. And it's about the promises that I keep to myself more than it is about the promises that I keep to anybody else. Because at the end of the day, who you are behind those closed doors when nobody else is watching, those things are on you. Those things are what define you as a person, like the real you. So having discipline when nobody else is watching makes me feel really sexy. I am feeling super sexy when I say no and yes when I actually want to. I think I've been a yes person my whole life. Yeah. And you can change your mind. That's another thing I'm realizing. If I said yes, but right now, I can't. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the energy. I won't even be fun. I won't be present if I actually come to that thing. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. I feel sexy when I sleep. Last week, I spent maybe 4 or 5 days in a row getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep. I think 5 at the maximum. And I'm really proud of how I was able to function despite that, but it did not feel good to me. It did not feel good to my body. I felt like my temper was short. I felt like my energy was low, and I'm not there anymore. Maybe when I was 18, 20 in college, I could run on 3 hours of fumes, but at this point in a 30-year-old body, I want sleep. I want regular sleep. My face takes a toll, everything. So from here on out, I'm making sleep a priority for me. And if I have a night where I gotta stay up, that is 1 to 2 times a week. That is not the majority. It's that 20% versus the 80%. So that's all I have time for today, because I have a client coming in, which is really exciting. And I am just really hoping that this inspires you to get a little bit more honest with yourself, a little bit more vulnerable with you and all of the people that you love, and really figuring out like what is going to make me the more confident version of myself that I envision. What is going to make me feel sexy on a daily basis. And every day is a little bit different. We can't show up at 100% every single day. So every single day, your best is going to look unique. All right, that's all I got.